I'm sitting down with a friend whose story is just as impactful as her work. Rilee is the founder of Balloonworks, where she's built a name for herself, creating stunning balloon installations for some of the biggest brands out there. But what makes her truly remarkable isn't just her creativity, it's her grit. Rilee's story is one of strength, redemption, and breaking generational cycles. She is a motivator for young women who feel like the odds are stacked against them, showing them that they too can do the hard thing and carve out a name for themselves. Rilee, welcome to Shift Happens.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here. We have been friends for a while now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're bonded after our Italy trip.
That's for sure.
But it's such an honor to have you here today. And you've really, honestly, show so much grit and hustle with your company Balloonworks. And I really admire that about you. And as we kind of, get to know, not each other, but like have my audience get to know you more, you really started this just like nothing, like no expertise. There was no just literally your straight desire to make a name for yourself in an industry that is really niche. With that, do you think that your hustle and your grit is because of how you were raised?
Yes, absolutely. Two different dynamics, right? So my dad is the type where both my parents are definitely hardworking, but my dad's hardworking to like a fault. And then my mom is just a survivalist, and that's based off of her childhood. And I think both of those coming together has made me the person who I am today. Getting that hardworking ethic from my dad, and then being able to survive off of nothing like my mom. Just knowing that I'm going to have to make this work no matter what. Yeah. It was never an option for me. It was always like, if I'm going to put my heart and soul into something, it's full throttle, gas all the way down.
What led you to start a balloon installation business?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't go to school for balloons. I always tell people that. I'm like, definitely didn't go to balloonery school. But I was working crazy corporate job before. Absolutely hated my life, making 100 phone calls a day. But it's so weird how each job that you've done in the past can somehow correlate to where you are today and have helped you. So that job made me realize, one, I don't want to sit behind a desk all day, and two, be super able to get behind a phone call and smile and dial and make connections, which has helped me today and as a business owner. So I did that, and then I quit my job, and like I said, I was hating my life. I had a close girlfriend of mine asked me to do a gender reveal for her. I was like, amazing, yeah, I'll do it. And this was before balloons are what they are now. I did the balloons, and I got some good feedback, and I was like, this could be a career. Like this could be something. And sure enough, I did it. I got a big balloon installation for Paris Hilton. And at the time, I didn't know who it was for. It was just an event planner that told me, can't tell you who the client is, but this is the client.
Always do that.
Yep, this is the date and the time. Be there. Can you do it? I did it. Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian had posted my work, and then from there, Balloonworks just took off.
And that's how it happens. Yeah. And I think sometimes people will ask me, maybe they ask you, well, how are you working with these brands, or how'd you blow up on Instagram? It's like, it honestly just takes that one opportunity.
Totally.
Sometimes you're not even really looking for it. It just comes to you because you're continuously showing up, doing the hard work, putting your creativity out online, and a lot of times it just happens.
Yeah, and consistency is everything. So like if you're constantly, posting on social media, reaching out to people, like there's going to be some good that comes from that. And a lot of people stop before they see the results, right? They're like, this is too much, this is too hard. And I think I've never done that. Like even to this day, going into my 8th year of business, like I'm still going just as hard as I did my very first year. And I don't mean, sometimes it's not always a positive. I definitely think I need to relax a little bit, but when it's your baby, like it's hard to.
No, I totally relate to that for sure. I remember when we were waiting for, we were locked out of this airport, and was it Paris? Because it was Paris Fashion Week. We were locked out. We couldn't get into the airport, or maybe we were just like too dumb to like find the entrance. I have no idea. But the moral of the story is we were at this hotel waiting. Then we got kicked out because they didn't let us stay in the lobby anymore. But what I'm trying to get to is there was this like balloon animal like figure behind us, and we were like, oh, and you really, I think I have a picture of you
Yeah.
holding it, and we were talking to this guy in the lobby, and you were like, I think you said that you do like balloon art or like balloon, I don't know
Yeah.
what you said, if it was like balloon installations. And he was like, what do you mean, like a balloonist?
I was like, no.
And you have like this, like, it was like a dog
Yeah.
balloon. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And
But don't insert the picture here.
I
Like, no,
they'll find
literally,
it. They
we're
find
good.
stuff. Like, I don't even know how they create these reels. AI like finds all the stuff, and they like search my Instagram.
Yeah.
But we will put that in this reel.
Don't put it in here.
But going back to, we're talking about your parents' hustle and grit and how that rubbed off on you.
Yeah.
And now something that, you know, on your business account, it's not like you're open and you're talking about childhood and childhood trauma or your parent. You're not talking about that stuff, right? And a lot of people don't. But on your personal account and on your close friends that I'm privy to, we do share, and we share openly, and it's a really, honestly, a form of healing, I would say, for you
Absolutely.
to share.
Yeah.
You have shared that your mom has struggled with addiction. Your parents got divorced. How has growing up in that dynamic changed your view of love and marriage?
Yeah. So my parents were married 32 years, which I think is a crazy blessing in disguise. Like, many people can't say that. So I was very fortunate, but with that, I grew up in chaos. And so growing up in that chaos makes you realize that, like, my dad's ability to love my mom no matter what was purely based off of loyalty, right? So, like, I grew up thinking that you are sticking with somebody through and through, end and end. That's loyalty is love and endurance, right?
No matter what.
No matter what. My dad's endurance to love my mom through her hardest days was what I thought is normal. I will say, like, growing up with a family in addiction, it's almost taboo to talk about it. I do find the more I do talk about it, the more people actually relate to me, because you either know somebody directly that's an addict, or somebody's uncle, sister, brother is an addict. So I think how it's altered my whole brain is to think that loving somebody is to stick through with them for everything. And I don't think that's normal. Now, I experienced a lot of heartbreak for thinking that was the truth. It's not anymore for me. And it's taken a lot of heartbreak and hurt to realize that love should be somebody showing up for you. Love should be somebody understanding, making you feel the best version of yourself, and vice versa, and not strictly off of endurance and basically being like, you know what, you can treat me like crap, but I'm loyal to you, and I'm gonna stay. Yeah, I don't believe that anymore.
So what I hear you saying is, so the story that you have told yourself over and over is, this is what love looks like. Love is hard.
Yeah.
And I have to stay even if love is hard. Is that something that now you're currently having to unlearn, or do you feel like you have unlearned it?
I would say more recently than anything, I've unlearned that. Because it was a repeated cycle, and I saw a lot of the way my dad loved my mom returning into my relationships. So I was seeing a lot like, okay, my dad would accept this type of love, so I was accepting that type of love, and I don't want that type of love. So why am I continuing this cycle that's not going to bring me the person that I want to be, nor the person I want to be with?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a really good point. Now, when we talk about your mom, and we do talk about addiction, I know it's a sensitive topic. You were at a point where you didn't talk to your mom for 4 years. Is that right? Am I getting that?
Yeah.
The years right? Okay. I remember we were talking about it. So for 4 years, what led you to that decision of creating that boundary with your mom? And then what fears and emotions are you having to face currently as you've been letting her back in? So it's a twofold question.
Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely wasn't an easy decision. I mean, at the end of the day, it is my mom, right? So I think for me, I had to create this boundary with her, because when I was around her, I was seeing red. I was like, this woman isn't changing. She doesn't want to be the best version of herself. And I'm so tired of being around her and like not being happy. And I just told myself, like, I'd rather just not speak with her until she gets better or until she sobers up or whatever.
Mhm.
That was like my main goal with her until I realized more recently, this is going on a year now. So I've had a relationship with my mom now for this past year, but before that, I've just learned to see her in a different lens.
Mm.
I think I grew up having a lot of close girlfriends who had very close relationships with their mom, and I envied that. I wanted that for so long, and then I started to take a step back and realize that, like, that's not my mom.
Mm.
She didn't grow up with a great mom. How am I expecting and having these expectations of her to be this mom that she doesn't even know how to be?
Yeah.
And she suffers from a lot of hurt and heartache and trauma and toxicity and things. And I just started to see her for who she really is. And
Mm.
she's just a girl. She's just a girl living her first life. This is her
Mm.
first time ever being a mom.
Mhm.
It's her first time navigating life. And I need to accept that and not put these expectations and limitations on her, and just realize, like, this is it. This is the cards I was dealt. This is the cards she was dealt. We can either move forward and move on, or I can continue living with this chip on my shoulder, which I didn't want to do anymore. So I
Mm.
was like, you know what? Let me accept her for who she is, whether that's an addict, whether that's the most amazing mom, or just who she is right now in this moment, and not put any type of like expectation.
Expectation.
Yeah.
How are you feeling now that you have let her back in your life and you're navigating this relationship with boundaries, I'm sure?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely not easy. There's a lot of things I've noticed that's still triggering for me with her.
Mhm.
But I will say I do give myself a lot of grace, and I give her a lot of grace. I'm not expecting her to be anybody else other than herself. I try to show up to be the best version of myself in front of her. The boundaries I've set is just basically like, when you're around me, I hope you're sober. And if
Mhm.
you can't be, give me a call before and be like, I need to reschedule. But we've had a couple really amazing times together over this last year, whether it was
Mm.
Thanksgiving this past year, spending just the two of us, or her spending the night at my house for the first time just like a
Wow.
month ago. And I would have never thought that was possible my entire life, to be honest with you. And I got to show her like a skincare routine and what it's like to like
Mm.
sleep in your own bed, and have an alarm clock that has like red light therapy. And she was
Mhm.
just like blown away. She's just like, I can't believe you live this life. And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, mom. Like, yeah, it was a
It's
lot.
no, that is a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's really special too
absolutely. And
to
I
be
have to
able to
remind
have those
myself, like,
memories.
my mom had my sister when she was 17. So she's never had that life of, I'm a 30-year-old single female that's living my absolute best life right now. My mom has been a mom her entire life.
Wow. Mhm.
So she's never had time to herself. And so being able to like pamper her, she's like, what skincare is this? And how do you
Yeah.
use that? She was
Yeah.
just so intrigued.
Like
And
new for her.
yeah,
She's
yeah.
also living a new life,
Oh, absolutely.
and
Yeah.
she's trying to figure out who she is
Yep.
currently aside from addiction.
Yeah. As a 60-something-year-old woman,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Huh.
Yeah.
So, have you had a conversation with your mom as to the root of her addiction?
Yeah, I mean, my mom grew up in an addictive household, and my grandma was never around for her, which is so funny now because my grandma, she's 90, she is so involved in all of her grandchildren's
Mhm.
lives. And I think that a lot of my aunts, so my mom has 4 sisters, harbor a lot of hurt feelings and
Mm.
neglect from my grandma. And then her now trying to be a part of our lives, they're like, what the heck? You
Yeah,
know?
like where were you for us?
Exactly. So I think a lot of my mom's childhood traumas with that, and then
Mhm.
being a teen mom at 17, and having to get married when she was 17,
Mhm.
and having an abusive relationship with that, absolutely has created the
Codependency on or
yeah,
dependency on alcohol.
alcohol. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Do I think that she needs to go to therapy? Yeah, but that's my own thought process. I think people in our parents' generation, therapy is like not a
Taboo.
thing. Yeah.
Mm.
And I think for us, I'm very lucky where it's like I'm the generational, like, I'm going to stop this trauma and I'm not going to allow it to go into my kids' lives.
Mhm.
So therapy to me is like a non-negotiable. Like,
Mm.
it's a thing. Like, I have to go through it because I don't want my kids to ever suffer through what I did.
Mhm. Now let's talk about your dad. You are a daddy's girl through and through. I love watching your guys' videos and just like lunch dates, and like you are really close to your dad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in that, when your parents got divorced, were you, and I don't want to say like happy, okay, but sometimes divorce is beneficial and it is valid and it does allow for healing. Was there a part of you when they did divorce that you were like, okay, good. Like, dad, you need to be over here. Mom needs to be over here. Like, you need to heal on your own, dad, separately from her? Or what was your mindset like during that time?
Absolutely. I mean, during that time of the divorce, I wasn't speaking to my mom. So
Okay.
I was whole head in,
You were
like,
team
dad, like,
you were
what are
team
you
dad.
doing?
What are we doing? Break away from her.
Exactly. And it's always like, when is enough enough? You want to take that person and shake them and just be like, you're done doing this, you know? And I've always looked at my dad, I know this is weird to say, but like as if he was my baby. Like I was just wanting to care and look after him because he never stuck up for himself, because his loyalty was love to my mom and his main priority. And I don't resent my dad, but I do harbor some feelings of him not sticking up for us when we were younger, right? But then again, like my parents were married for 32 years. That's longer than I've been alive. So who am I to like, I've been in a relationship for 5 years and I couldn't imagine leaving that person, and I did. I couldn't imagine building a bond with children in 30 plus years and then having to leave that person. But now how things have played out, it's kind of tricky because I think it's allowed my dad to heal in a certain way, but I do think he still loves my mom to his core. And if she were to be completely sober and better for like an extent amount of time, whether that's a year or 2 years, he would absolutely be back with my mom.
Is that like, wow, you're saying that? You're saying
I'm
that
saying that like
proud.
fully with my chest. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is your dad still dating that girl?
Yes, he is.
I hope she doesn't hear the podcast.
Yeah, I'll send it to her if anything. Just kidding. No, but my dad loves my mom. Like that's my dad's person. Yeah, and my dad, like I said, like loyalty to a fault.
What about your mom?
Yeah, my mom would absolutely be with my dad. Yeah. But with that, there's been a lot of hurt and heartache, and I don't know if they can come back from that.
I mean, that would take therapy. That would take
a lot of work.
A lot of unlearning toxic behaviors, right? And when we talk about toxic behaviors, me and you have both discussed being in toxic relationships. And you just talked about being in a relationship for 5 years and not thinking you would be able to leave that person.
Yeah.
Do you think that you've allowed and tolerated these red flag behaviors because it felt normal to you due to your parents' relationship?
1000%. Like I think that, or I thought, I'm getting better at this now, that dysfunction was love. So I'm like, the more they text me, the more they call me, the more they make me feel valid and secure. Like they're not following other girls on Instagram. And I was just doing so many like toxic things where I look back and I just want to freaking choke myself. I don't even know. But I just look at it and I'm just like, I never, ever want to be in a relationship like that again. Because to me, like red flags were almost just like oh, that's cute. That's normal. Like they like me even more now.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you bring us into what some red flags were that you overlooked? Because I think that would be helpful for our listeners, because I think we're not alone, right, in this, in tolerating behavior like this. And I don't even want to say that we looked at a red flag and was like, oh, that's not a red flag. I think a lot of times we know it's a red flag, but we choose to look past it. So I do think it would be helpful to like bring in like what would be something that you would say that was a red flag that I actually knew that it wasn't good, but I chose to accept it.
Oh, there's so many. I don't even know where to start. I think some red flags are insecurity is a huge one. I would consider myself not an insecure person, but when I'm with somebody that's insecure, it makes me very insecure, right? So I don't like to be questioned about where I'm at, who I'm with, and what I'm doing, because I am so honest. I don't need to like go, but having a partner that's constantly questioning you to do that, that's a red flag.
Yep.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
Yeah, that's like a huge one for me.
I totally get it. And I think, like you said, you are not an insecure person, but when you are around someone who is insecure, jealous, controlling, it almost warps your mind. Like,
absolutely.
You're almost like, wait, am I doing something wrong? And then you're also like, well, what are you doing that's making you
Yeah.
think this
Or
way.
like I've been in relationships where it's like I'm wearing a black shirt, but they're like, no, your shirt's white. And I'm like, oh shoot, maybe it is white. I didn't know that. That's crazy. Like my mind just gets so warped by their insecurities and their levels to
Their
control. Yeah,
manipulation. It's
manipulation.
manipulation,
Yeah.
hands down.
Yeah. But I've been also like grew up in a family like our household that was chaotic and there was manipulation. My mom would be like, I'm not drinking, I'm not drinking. And we could all be like, you are drinking. And in our head, we would have to like tell ourselves that she's not drinking,
Mm,
and just
yeah.
wake up the next morning and act like none of that happened. And then that translated into my relationship as a adult where
Yeah.
it's like a man's telling me, I'm not going out, I'm not doing that. And I'm literally seeing text messages of them going out and them doing that. And I'm like,
Mm.
am I crazy or are they crazy?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or there must be some reason. Like maybe they must be honest. And I must be looking into this way too
Yeah.
much.
Or I'm so insecure. Why
Yeah.
would I ever think that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We talk a lot about what we believe that we deserve and how much we both want to be like in a healthy and happy relationship,
Yeah.
right? How has your self-worth changed as you've experienced different relationships after that long-term one that you were in?
Yeah. So I used to base my worth on feeling chosen. And I think that stems a lot from my relationship with my mom. I grew up being like, if I get good grades, if I'm captain of the cheer squad, if I, look cute or whatever, my mom is going to stop drinking.
Mm.
And that was me wanting to be chosen by my
Yeah,
mom.
you wanted her approval.
Yes. And
Yep.
in my relationships as an adult, I'm like, if I have my career set, if I'm making good money, if I'm paying for all my own things, if I'm cleaning the house, if I'm cooking, they're going to choose me. They're never going to leave me. They're always going to do whatever it takes. And I was trying to validate myself or feel validated by them by being the best version of myself in my head. Not now. I'm like, my person will love me regardless of anything and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't look at love as feeling chosen. I look at love as feeling secure, feeling validated, and being seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alexis here. Don't skip past me just yet. If you love what you're hearing from Shift Happens, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review so we can continue sharing stories of impact. Thank you. And now back to another powerful story. I think I feel very similar. I was just on a podcast yesterday and I was getting asked questions about just like dating and whatnot. And I said that, or she actually asked me like, what has been something that you've been unlearning, recently? And I said, I have been unlearning the desire to earn love.
I love that.
And that is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I went into pretty much exactly what you just said about if I'm successful, if I'm put together enough, if I, cook and clean and I'm there, I'm there for you and I will be a ride or die.
Yeah, I
no
mean, that
matter
comes with us naturally because we're doing that for other people and we expect the same in return, but that's not everybody.
Nope. And that's also something that I've learned
Yeah.
is we cannot expect other people to love us as we love. People might love in a different way. We have to know what is a non-negotiable for us.
Yes. And my self-worth isn't a negotiable anymore. It's not. Like you're either going to love me for who I am or on to the next because there's 57 bajillion people in this world.
Yes. I think that's really hard to get to because when you're in a relationship, it can be toxic or not. Okay. Sometimes we can think and we convince ourselves this is the best we are going to get.
Yes. Yeah.
This is the best we're
so
going to get.
crazy? Yeah.
This is the most attractive I'm going to get. This is the most funny I'm going to get. But yet they can be treating us like crap. But we somehow have said, no, we will take it on the chin. We will stick this out. We're not a quitter.
No.
We're not going to quit on this relationship.
I think that's where it stems from is because we don't want to look like the quitter.
Nope. And we don't want to be the villain
or somebody that's
story.
Given up.
Yep.
But
I've
hit this point in my life where it's like, it's not giving up anymore. It's letting go of something that doesn't deserve my energy, doesn't deserve my priority anymore. And that's where I've stepped out of. So I've stepped into this new era of myself of like, what is meant for me will always be for me. And it shouldn't come with me sacrificing so many parts of myself.
Yeah. Are you skeptical of love now?
No, I think I'm more intentional with it. I think there is somebody out there for me, absolutely, but I'm not in a rush to find it
Mhm.
because I rather be true to myself and know that what's meant for me is meant for me,
Mhm.
and it's out there. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's just say you go on a date and you're dating somebody and it's
Mhm.
going well. It's like week 3, okay?
Week
And
3, Ooh, I'm barely get past week 1 at this point.
things are getting
Yeah,
serious. Things are getting
yeah,
serious at this point. I'm just kidding. At the week 3 mark.
yeah.
No, okay. But in those times, do you find yourself getting triggered like how you potentially would be in your past relationships? Or like, do you find yourself not second guessing them, but being like, like when's the other shoe gonna drop?
Oh, duh. But I think that's what sucks too.
That's what I'm
I'm trying to
saying.
get better at that.
'Cause I feel that way.
Yeah.
I feel very much guarded. I
Yes.
feel very much like, "Okay, well, slow down, sir."
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know you, you
Yeah.
know? Like, and I'm, like, so, like, I don't know if triggered is the right word, but I'm, like, so easily I'm, like, more sensitive. So, I feel like I'm like, "Oh, okay, you're trying to, like, call me baby all of a sudden." It's like,
Got it.
"Slow down, my guy." Or
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you're trying to be so affectionate so quick." And I think that everything's like love bombing. I'm like and sometimes I think the more you educate yourself and you do the self-development
It's
work,
almost scarier.
it's scarier because you're like,
Yeah.
"Well, is this love bombing? Are
Yeah.
they anxious attachment? Are they avoidant
Yes,
attachment?
yes. And you
What am
start reading
I?
too much into it.
Am I operating out of my anxious attachment right now because I'm,
Yes.
like,
But one
overthinking
thing
it?"
I'm starting to do now though is just go fully in.
That's hard.
It's so hard.
It's
But
scary.
I'm like, I rather be fully 100% myself
Yeah.
in front of you and it lasts 1 month and it's just like so fun and exciting and then I realize I don't like you than like holding off and it having to last 6 months and you just wasted 6 months of my time. You
That's
know
a
what I
good
mean?
word. No, that's a good word. Because I kinda operate on the opposite of like, "Okay,
Like I'm
I'm
not a
gonna
slow
take it."
burn. I'm like, we're fully in this. Like you're either with me or you're out. So like I'm like right off the bat. Like I just went on a date literally 2
Yeah,
days
I know,
ago.
and I asked you how it went, and then you left
I
me on
know,
red.
sorry.
How'd it go?
Well, I was in the trenches. No, it went really well. But like for example,
We'll
on
we'll have to revisit this
yeah,
podcast and
and,
and see if it
yeah, we'll see if it gets
lasts.
to the third date. But it was great. But I just put myself out there. I just told him like I'm an open book. Like whatever questions you have to ask, like I'm not gonna be like I can't tell you that right now. You know, I'm just like, what do you gotta ask? Like
Yeah.
I actually asked him right away. I'm like, are you a Trump supporter? Like he like thought it was crazy that I asked him, but I'm like,
I'm
I don't
so dead
judge you
right now.
regardless. But
Yeah.
like, I'm just curious, like, where do you stand in that type of stuff? And it's just like, there's just certain things I'd rather know about a person right up in
No,
front.
I'm an open book. That's not my issue. I think, like, anyone can ask me anything. It's more like I if they like me too much right away.
You don't like that?
No. Well, I don't know if it's a no, it's more it scares me. I think that I've come out of a relationship where it felt hard a little bit at the
Yeah.
beginning,
Yeah.
and then it was just like, "Oh my gosh, you're it.
Okay. Okay. But wait.
I love you. You're it for me." And then I stayed for so long,
Yeah.
and so now I'm just guarded, is it?
Okay. But for me, I rather you just tell me you like me from the start because,
No, and it is, and I do
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I do like that, but I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Are we just, like,
Cause,
jumping
but
in and
just
you're, like,
think about
coming over?"
yourself. Like, you're so cool. Like,
Me?
yes, like
Oh.
you're so cool. Like, what is there not to like?
No, I
You know what
believe
I
that. I
mean? Like
understand.
you're full, like the full package.
Mhm.
And so when I date a guy that's like not wanting to tell me that, I'm like, you
You're like,
suck.
"What's wrong with you?"
Yeah. I'm like, I am like, you should be obsessed with me.
No, absolutely. I agree with that. I do. I think okay. Here this isn't about me, but this is the last thing I'll share about this
Okay.
because we're talking about dating and stuff. Is we both come from Riverside
I.e., baby.
and everyone knows everyone. And I like not too long ago was at a place and I was just being friendly. I wasn't even interested in this person. And I mean, like there was a slight like, maybe you could be,
Yeah.
but he was going through something and I straight said like I don't want to be I'm not gonna date you. Like you're
Yeah.
going through a divorce, you need to heal. I don't even think it's best to be like friends. Like I literally shut it down.
Yeah.
But boom, gossip meal. Some people saw me out, thought, oh, we're dating, told everybody, and now all of a sudden everyone thinks I'm dating this guy who I'm not dating. Right. So I'm like, oops,
Sorry.
hello.
I don't know who that is.
So I think with that, it is hard for me to date in Riverside.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're in a different phase of life too. Like you're a mom with 2 kids. Like
I don't want everyone in my business.
exactly. For me, like people aren't that interested. She's just a 30-year-old single girl. She doesn't have, you know what I mean? Like I have no ties.
Yeah. So it is, I think that's why I'm a little bit more guarded too as I enter into like dating and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I think it's hard. And I think doing the work, the self-development work that you are doing and have done, it does a lot for healing, and it allows us to reframe what we really want in life and imagine our life and our future. And if something doesn't line up with that in a potential, partner,
Yeah.
it's easier for us to walk away now. When before,
Oh,
we
it was
wouldn't have
like
been.
heartbreaking. It
Oh,
was
before
like
it was like, that's
never
done.
going to happen.
We're never gonna get married.
Yeah.
You're never gonna get,
Yeah.
have kids. It's never gonna happen, right? But I think now, because of the experiences you've gone through, you have a different perspective and a different outlook, and so you can be stronger in saying, all right, it's just not for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Before it was like end all be all, like I was going to make this person my person no matter what. Now it's just like, I don't want to live my life like that. I don't want to live my life miserable with a person who I tried making my person because of his potential.
And that's it right there. The potential keeps us hanging on, girl.
That's for
Okay,
sure.
if we could go back, right, and talk to little Rilee.
Wait, sorry. I have this on my chat GPT and this was a really good one.
We
Hold
need to
on.
keep that in here. We're not going to edit that out.
Okay.
But I do want to ask you though, like if you could go back to your younger self, talk to this girl. There's that trend on Instagram right now, like I had coffee with my younger self. She had, chocolate milk and I had like a latte or whatever. What would you tell that Rilee who tolerated one-sided relationships?
That you don't have to prove your worth to anyone. That the person that is meant for you will already see it.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's very true and very powerful.
Thanks.
We've talked about being skeptical about love, and we kind of expanded on that and just maybe being guarded, specifically me. But you've also have been, and I don't want to say skeptical of the church, but potentially as far as like you've seen things happen in the church,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
where it has created distance between, or you've maybe allowed it to create distance between you and your relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you stand now with your relationship with God?
Okay, so I think skepticism and faith can coexist. I also believe that because I've been hurt or seen some things in the church doesn't mean that that's God. So I've kind of had to separate the two of them and realize that because I've been through weird things with the church doesn't mean that I've been through weird things with God.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
That's like, I also have experienced quote unquote church hurt. And you have to look at it as we are broken people going to church because we are broken people.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it perfectly. And we don't follow people, we follow Jesus.
Yeah.
And
and just because I've been
say.
like hurt from people doesn't mean I've been hurt from God.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree. What is something that you're still wrestling with when it comes to faith and trusting not only God, but yourself?
Yeah, this is a good one because literally 2 weeks ago at church, I made a decision to myself to fully surrender. And I think that is like something that I am still working through because I've been in control of so many things in my life. Well, what I think is control, fully surrendering to God and being like, you know what? It's in your hands. I can't control my next job. I can't control my future. I can't control the person you have in front of me. All I can do is allow you to help me walk with you to the next season of life.
Yeah.
And fully surrendering every aspect of my life to him and not trying to control even the slightest bit because at the end of the day, it's always worked out. And it may not have been in my timing, it's been in God's timing, but it's never not worked out, which blows my mind every time. Yeah.
What led you to that surrender?
I think, I know. I was standing there in church and the pastor had asked, typically they're like, raise your hand if you want some, feeling the need to have prayer over you, if you want to have this moment with God or whatever.
Yeah.
And he stopped and he's like, no, actually come down to the front.
Mhm.
and I was just burning inside. I just had this like conviction of the Holy Spirit, and I was just like, I looked up and I was like, right now, like, are you sure, God? Like today? And he's like, yeah. And I just walked down to the front and I just like literally like put my head down and I was just sobbing, like sobbing,
Wow.
sobbing, sobbing, crying. And I was like, Lord, like I surrender to you. Like it's just too much of a burden, too much of a heartache for me to figure out myself. And you've
Mm.
never failed me. You've always brought me through any hardship. And why wouldn't
Yeah.
I trust you?
Yeah.
It's your time. Yeah.
Mm. Wow. How did you feel after that surrender?
It was intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, even this like last couple weeks has been pretty intense for
Processing
me.
it.
Yeah, processing it. And I'm still kind of like working through what that means, whether it's surrendering to like certain aspects of my personal life
Mhm.
or certain aspects of close relationships I have
Mhm.
and work too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of your last relationships we talked about that you guys were committing to no sex before marriage.
Hmm.
This is a hot topic.
It is. This is a
Okay.
hot
This is
take.
a hot take. Um, but I know that you had mentioned that that would be a struggle, and it's a struggle for everyone.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned it would be a struggle. Do you stand with that now?
Yeah, I think it's a deeply personal decision between you and that person to make that. Um, I think now that having sex, obviously, I've had sex. I don't want to say I'm 30, I've had sex, but like, yeah, like I'm 30 and I've had sex. I'm 30 and I've had sex. I've been in multiple relationships.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes, yes.
but do I think I found validation off of having sleeping with somebody and thinking that was going to further my relationship? Absolutely. Do
Mm,
I think that that was great? No.
mm,
So I think it's the decision to do that with somebody to hold off until marriage. It needs to be for certain reasons, right? So it's like, is it because you want to build a deeper foundation, a closer connection? Or are you feeling like you have to have sex because you're obligated to do it,
mhm.
or because it's going to make your relationship stronger? Like,
Yeah.
what is the reasons? But yeah, so that's kind of like my thought process. I don't know if I answered that question well enough, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't think it in my next relationship, I want it to be the forefront anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want God as the foundation.
Yes, absolutely.
It's interesting. Was having a conversation with someone and I was talking about sex. And she had an interesting take on it.
Okay.
And what she said was that when you have sex with somebody, outside of like God's, will, if we use those terms, um, that you're actually inviting in and taking on their demons for yourself and then them like your demons onto them. It's like a spiritual exchange. I never really heard of it that way before, but it did make sense to me in the way of a relationship.
Yeah.
When you're in a relationship with somebody and you are being physical with them, it's so easy to one, obviously feel connected to them, but then I feel like it's easier to take on their burdens
Yeah.
and to wear them and then try to heal them of their own demons as well. Um, and so
That's
I
interesting.
thought it was a really interesting, like I'm still kind of trying to like process what she's
Yeah.
saying, but I do think that it's not just an act. I don't believe that it's just an act. I do believe that
No,
there's a
I think
spiritual
it's,
component.
yeah, absolutely. Like it's an inner component that you're bonding with this other person. Yeah.
Yeah,
And how
exactly.
is your body not gonna feel some type of way?
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, for exactly. Um, Going back to just the striving, right, for maybe success, approval from parents, from
Hmm.
your mom in particular, but also for yourself. And as your friend, I've noticed like you can be hard on yourself, just like we all can be
Yep.
as creatives and business owners. Um, and you do love hard, you do go all in. And I think sometimes we just need to stop and really reflect on what we've accomplished and achieved in our life. And so I haven't done this before and
Okay.
I did like prepare this and she was ready for this. But I want you to take a moment and I want you to think, you can close your eyes or whatever you want to do
Okay.
and think of a few words that would describe you in this season of life that you either want to feel or that you are currently feeling.
That's great. Yeah.
And then share those with us when
yeah.
when
I
you're
think
comfortable.
I would say resilient, which is crazy because I have that tattooed on me.
Mhm.
And that was about 4 years ago I got that tattooed. I think that's just me as a person. Um, intentional. I want to be very
Mhm.
intentional with who I spend time with, how I operate my business,
Mhm.
um, what relationships I have going forward. And then I would say becoming.
I love that, becoming.
Yeah, like becoming the best version of myself,
Mhm.
becoming a greater sister, friend,
Mhm.
daughter, and becoming more spiritual with my journey with God and
Mm.
just trusting Him.
I love that. I think that it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, and we are so busy and so overwhelmed that we never take the time to sit and reflect on, like, okay, this is how far we've come.
Yeah,
These are the traits that I have unlearned and the things that I have, you know, been gleaning and walking in. And these are, who this is who I am becoming. And really thinking on that. And I think it's really powerful. And I hope that the people that are listening take this time as well and like pause it and just think, okay, like, who am I and who am I becoming? Who do I
yeah,
want to be? What kind of life do I want to live? And make sure that my goals and my action plan lines up with that. And if it's
totally.
not, then we discard it. You right? So thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
And thank you so much for being on today's episode. I know it's going to bless so many people. And I know that there's so many out there that have parents or they themselves maybe struggle with addiction, they have divorce, and they've been in relationships that might not have been the best. So this has been a really encouraging episode.
yeah, absolutely. I just hope that everybody in the future knows like if you're going through the struggle, you'll get through the struggle. And who you are today isn't going to be who you are even are tomorrow or an hour from now. So like
Mm,
whatever that is that's holding you back, just allow it to propel you forward because life is too damn short to
mm,
allow your hurt, heartache, and heartbreaks define who you are. Allow it to make you the better person.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
of course. Love you.
That's a wrap. Yay! Thank you for listening to Shift Happens. You are the reason I started this podcast. I hope it finds the ears and hearts of those who need it so that you know your voice matters and you are reminded that someone needs to hear your story. As always, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And I'll see you next week.